there are, let me have a look here. There are 9 of us, which is great. And
Excellent.
my name is Simon Haig, and my colleague here is Jasonacooper. We've got a huge amount of information to get through in an hour and 20 minutes. And we really hope you'll enjoy this, number one, and you'll take out a lot of learnings from this first session. Our second session, and these are very cumulative, so it's very important for all of us that we try and attend all 3 because they build on each other. So the second one is Friday morning, and then the third one then is Tuesday morning next week. And this is really a combination, because of the time constraint, of a training session and a webinar. So we are going to be giving a lot of information, but we've built in some exercises for us to do. And because it's a small class, we won't do breakouts. We'll just do it live together. So, okay, with that, let me just plow through. And just a little bit of housekeeping. Jason, if you just want to just run through that.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone's done a lot of these already, so it's just a normal thing. So if you have a question, like, we're quite open. We want to make this an interactive session. At the moment, just keep the mute on. If you have any questions, please ask. We'll unmute you, and we can be interactive. As if you have coffee, tea already, pens and paper ready. What we've done here, we've done a huge amount of research based on the feedback that was given to us. So a lot of this is academic. A lot of it is from books and seminars that we've all attended. So you'll find a lot of strength in these first sessions. And we trust that you're going to gain a lot out of it. And please, if you have a question, please let us know.
Yeah, and just to build on that as well, while it's also heavily researched, this is, Jason and I are small business owners ourselves, and we work with small businesses as well, SMEs. So this is very, very, what we've tried to do is provide practical hints and tips for you to take away. So we're not going to have time to go through it all now, but please take this material away and have a good look at it afterwards, and then keep in touch with either of us through Adam as well. So let's just keep going through. So today, what we're going to be dealing with today is we're going to be looking at ourselves, right, as business owners, and the whole area of confidence. Let me just make sure I get down to the last one there, I think, going back. So today we're looking at building your confidence, because that's critically important for business owners, particularly in times of crisis or stasis or change, okay? So today we're going to focus on a lot of really, really core stuff that feeds into our effectiveness as business owners. So we're going to look at the whole area of mindful crisis management, confidence, decision-making, focus, balance, belief, the whole area of resilience. I know we were just chatting with Ronan about that, what's called grit, awareness, calmness, and then we're going to build all that up together and bundle it then into some of the key traits of effective business leaders and growth mindset requirements, to then lead us into session 2, where we talk about, so we move from session 1, which is about talking about us as business leaders, into looking at our businesses. So in session 2, we talk about the 3 R's of business, which are revenue, risk, and reputation. It's all about those 3 R's. And we're going to talk about the importance of communication, particularly in times like this, the importance of collaboration, particularly in times like this, innovation, the whole areas of what it means to transform effectively and to change effectively in a calibrated, sensible way, right? Considering where your business is at right now and where it could go or should go. And then we're going to look at a whole area of things around trust, influencing, growth keys, promotion keys. We've got a couple of exercises in the second session. And then the third session, then on Tuesday next week, we're going to, so all of that, everything we've learned in the first 2 sessions, then will be bundled into the third session, which is really about how you use everything we've dealt with in the first 2 sessions to increase your sales, or to change or pivot your sales, or adapt your sales and grow or pivot your business. So there's a huge amount of stuff here. We know there's way too much really for 1.5 hour sessions, but we really wanted to share all this with you. And this really comes from a whole load of other programs we've done that have been successful. So a little bit about me. From an Irish family, grew up in the UK. I was a commercial lawyer for about 14 years, private practice, big tech companies, lived in Ireland for 7 years, 1990 to 2007, Australia for 10 years. And then for the last, I left law, became a CEO of an American company in Australia. And for the last 7, nearly 8 years now, I've been an SME owner. I've got my own consulting business, coaching business. I've also been involved in a number of startups, from a watch company to a plastic kettle company to fashion luxury goods companies as an investor and advisor. So unlike a lot of coaches and consultants, and this applies to Jason as well, we've been in business. We know what it's like every week to count the pennies in your bank account and to manage your cash flow and how difficult it is. So it's really important just to give that background as to me. And then Jason.
So a little bit about me. I'm English, but as far as I'm aware, I haven't got any Irish history. Not until I double check. I'm married. I've been over in Ireland for 15 years. In the UK, I was involved in a few startups. I've been involved in business within the square mile within the city of London. Then moved over and started up some businesses over here, some ambient advertising on ambient screens. Over the last 10 years, I've been involved in tech companies, tech startups, was on an envoy to Silicon Valley to get some VC funding for some tech companies I was collaborating with. And again, I've been involved in training sales professionals to think differently on the mind and the mindset. But like Simon, I'm a coach as well. So I work in the areas of personal development and the mind and the mindset, and establishing ways for growth and having a growth mindset as opposed to a fixed mindset. And also having a look into stories and how effective stories can be. And I've also studied hypnotherapy. So you're not going to get put into a trance today, so believe me. So enough about me, if we can just carry on.
Okay, so I've mentioned the agenda for today. In the hour and a quarter we've got a huge amount to get through. So let's plow into it, Jason. And don't think we need to say too much about this other than, it's critically important that we mind ourselves during this time, and we need to, look after ourselves. The best business leaders are looking after themselves, and they're eating right, and they're exercising, and they're living by daily habits. If you meditate, it's really important to do that. Jason, do you want to add anything to that?
Like we all know that if you're eating right, it goes into the stomach, and the stomach, there's a direct correlation to the brain. So if you're eating the right foods at the right time, it goes straight to the brain and gives you certain feelings of good feelings, as opposed to eating McDonald's and chips and stuff like that. And I've tried and tested that myself. Go to the chipper or whatever, and I do feel pretty awful afterwards. Obviously, exercise is the key. Sleeping is right. So basically, control the habits that you have when you're working from home. So if you're working in the living room, anchor yourself that that's the place that you work, as opposed to working in the bedroom, as I have to do sometimes. But the bedroom is really there for sleeping. So you push yourself into the places that anchor you into the right sort of states. But the bed is for sleeping. So anchor yourself into that place. Otherwise, the brain gets slightly confused. And have what you can control. And again, if you multitask, according to neuroscience, if you do too much at the same time, you do lots of things badly. But when you focus on the one thing, you do the one thing, and scientific research and neuroscience suggests that you focus on doing one thing really, really well.
Yeah. And we'll talk about focus a little bit later. So just to say, this, obviously, this is probably the first time in history that all 7 billion people will never forget this time. I mean, this is unique, and unlike prior crises, we were just talking to Ronan there about prior crisis since 1991, which prior crises have always been caused by financial bubbles, economic monetary policy mistakes, and oil. This one is probably, well, definitely the first global shock caused by health-induced supply and demand side failure. So it's small solace, but we're all in this together. There aren't many, apart from maybe the Amazons of this world, who are benefiting from this period. We're all finding this tough, right? So don't think that your neighbor or your friend is necessarily doing better than you. We're all struggling. All of us are struggling to a greater or lesser extent. And so leadership resilience is best displayed by those leaders who display clarity of thought, effective communications, and strong but compassionate decision-making. So compassion, calmness, and courage are really, really important. There's no point in flapping about and panicking right now, it's not going to help us, even though it's quite tempting to do that at times. So, and tough decisions must be made. Having said all that, if we need to make tough decisions about our business, if our business, and I've been there, I've had a failed business, a watch company, it failed, right? And I had to make a really tough decision when I moved back to Ireland 3 years ago to put it into the hand of liquidators because it just wasn't making money. It broke my heart for a year, so I know what it feels like. But sometimes those tough decisions are the right decisions. And then as you can see on the right, we operate through 3 brains. We think we have 1 brain, but we don't. We have the mind, the heart, and the gut. And there's this thing called the vagus nerve that basically connects through our body. And a lot of what we're going to talk about today around resilience and awareness feeds into our confidence. If you're aware of these things, then your confidence levels can be maximized, okay? But it's really important to say that, and we talk about this consistency, consistent habit, day in, day out. The best leaders, the best sports people, practice, 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 practice. Confidence doesn't stay if you don't practice it. I think we'll just move on, Jason.
Yeah, okay.
So over to you on so time to reflect.
So really, it's time to reflect on how things are now. Like we've gone through stages to stages to stages. Now it's really time to look back and build relationships that you might have lost in the past, connections that you might have lost in the past. So people that you did have a business relationship with once, or a friend of a friend that might be able to help you connect with other people. So I think it's really, really important that you just make those connections, because we know in Ireland, I think the law of average in globally, it's 5 or 6 degrees of separation. In Ireland, it's a lot smaller. So people generally know people, and there's a lot of good relationships that can be built back that might have been lost in the past because you just don't know. So be present to what you do and just focus in what you can do as opposed to what you can't do. So if you just keep on that in mind, and also set challenges for yourself that go beyond this year and go beyond 2020. So look at what things that might be possible for you to do, brainstorm different ideas, which is in the as we call it, the new norm, but let's call it rebalancing your business back into a good focus. So 2020 is a good year to really set your mind past where we are right now, and that really helps you focus a little bit better.
Yeah. So apologies, this slide's a little bit fuzzy, but hopefully you can see that the basis of this. So what is confidence? So Jason.
So confidence is built on practice. I think Simon discussed that already. So it's practice and practice and practice on things to build something in your psychology that makes you perform better. I'll give you some examples. Probably about 10 years ago, I was scared silly of standing in front of a group of people. I had this fear level. And then I learnt how to actually speak in front of people, like public speaking, and Toastmasters really helped me, and a lot of NLP helped me and sort of build me up confidence. I was still as nervous as anything by standing up in front of people, but I mentally rehearsed this. And when I actually stood up, it was actually getting things done. So again, you have to monitor your progress on just self-checking into yourself. Am I okay? Is everything all right with me? Am I doing things in the right sort of way? Check in with your values, because values is what we've all got. We all had our values from when we were installed in us when we were young, and that's brought us through to where we are now. So just keep in check of those, and so you can understand that. We've discussed the exercise. We know that is be fearless. It's easy for us to say be fearless, but sometimes you need to. I think Ronan said, like, he started his business in 1991, but that's being fearless. Like starting your business, we've all started our business, and like we have those imposter syndromes in our head that stop us from actually getting on and doing stuff. Sometimes you just have to go, right, I'm just going to do it and not think about it, because the neocortex in our brain, which is the main decision making, which takes up most of the energies, it takes up too much time, and it affects the way we work and progress. And before we know it, we talk ourselves out of doing stuff instead of using our emotions and going, look, I just give it a go. If it doesn't work, then I just move on. The little slide, it says, I won't do it. I can't do it. It's using that language back you. I want to do it, but how do I do it? Is start to build up on those steps. Okay, I'll try and do it. I can do it. So you're using a language back at you says, if you can do it, then you will do it, and I will do it. There's in NLP, we call it model operators. It's using the language that mostly fits with you so you can follow through on the actions that you take. And don't care what other people think. I posted a video this morning and I went, look, I just do it on focus, and I just went ahead and did it. Like, I could actually think now, is because, oh, what are people going to think? I don't really care right now because it's actually done. So I can't actually change what I've done. So sometimes you just forget what other people think and just do it, practice. So do more of what makes you happy on a day-to-day basis. So whatever that might look and feel like. And as we go on, I'm going to give you something to really think about on the area of building confidence. So if we move on to the next slide.
Yeah, I'm just responding to a point there about muting. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Hold a second. Okay, let me just come out of that. And next slide coming up now. We'll just do a shorter version of this, Jason, because we're kind of we're running.
Okay, we are running. So building confidence. I'm just going to give you a very quick exercise to do. So give me a quick thumbs up if you're ready. So I'm going to put yourself. It's a little bit of a visualization process. So what I'd like you all to do very quickly is to close your eyes. Take a nice deep breath in. And as you do, close your eyes again. So what I'd like you to do right now is to push through the fear levels. So what I'd like you to do is just remember the last time that you felt really confident. So remember what that was. So if you can look at yourself, it could have been an award, it could have been anything that you did in business, anything you did in sales or anything like that. What I want you to do is see what you saw at that particular time. Feel how you felt. Hear the sounds around you and any other sort of smells or taste or whatever it was. What I would like you to do with the thumb and forefinger is press that together very slightly and anchor that state and just release. Next thing I'd like you to do is just imagine yourself sometime in the future where you could really need more confidence and an unstoppable. So this could be when you open up your business. It could be when you make your first phone call back to customers. It could be anything like this. So what I'd like you to do is really visualize the experience of feeling really good at that particular time. What I'd like to do is crank up the feelings of feeling incredibly good. All the sounds that are around you, what you might hear, and build in the brightness and see what you would see at those particular times. And again, with the thumb and forefinger, I'd like to anchor that feeling straight and then release. The next thing I'd love you to do is imagine someone that you admire incredibly. For me, it's Barack Obama, Richard Branson, someone that appears super confident to you. So what I'd like you to do is, when you can, is to almost step inside of them. Step inside of who they are and feel how they would feel, and imagine in detail what they would see. I'd like, if you can, is use your physiology and sit upright as if they were upright and see what they would see and hear what they would see, and also talk in your mind and visualize in your mind how they would talk. And then what I'd like you to do is just anchor that feeling with your thumb and forefinger. Going to be interacting with a customer. What I'd like you to do is just go through a quick visualization technique. And we know that visualization is hugely powerful. It's just to run through this and see yourself talking to that customer, see yourself opening that business. Put yourself into a really good state of mind that you feel extremely confident. Stand up or sit down, put your shoulders back, And in your mind's eye, close your eyes and see yourself imagining talking to that person with extreme confidence, but visualizing yourself doing this. I know this is maybe quite new for some people, but practicing seeing yourself, experiencing being confident before you actually perform the task is, by neuroscience and by psychology, have proven to work again and again and again. So something for you to practice in the near future.
Yeah. So, okay, hold on a second, move on. So just building on the whole area of confidence, right? One book that I would highly recommend to any of you, if you have time to read, is an amazing book called Into the Magic Shop by an American neurosurgeon who came from a very poor Californian family. Father was an alcoholic, mother was in a very bad way. And at the age of 12, a broken kid, effectively, walked into a magic shop. This is a true story, just a very powerful book, endorsed by Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Dalai Lama, etc. And she taught him over a period of 6 weeks some of the critical skills to manage your life in terms of making the right decisions for who you are and where you are in your life. And it boils down to four. And so this is a summary of the book for all of you. It's critically important, and Jason's mentioned this, to relax your body. So the best leaders do these things, the best business people, whether we like it or not. There's no shortcut. You need to relax your body, calm your mind, and there's all sorts of programs and courses dealing with those things. The critical thing that most people forget or skip or ignore, or the ego says doesn't matter, is you have to be, number 3, honest with yourself about who you are, what you want, where you want to go, what's the sort of business you can really manage, what the sort of person you really are, what are your capabilities. And only once then have you really analyzed that stuff. And this is all about awareness. Then you set your intent and goals. So I just wanted to flag that. There's no skipping that third step around self-awareness, which is why we're going to look at a whole area around this. So, and then this analogy here is critically important. For any of you who haven't read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, we need to stop negotiating with our own minds, that particularly in this modern day, and particularly now when a lot of us are stuck at home and we're watching the news and looking at social media, and we're wondering whether our competitors or colleagues are now stealing a march on us, and oh my God, what's happening in the bank account, and blah, blah, blah. We're all going through this. We need to, as much as we can, stop doing this. And we're all living in this low-grade anxiety state, particularly fueled by social media. And Eckhart Tolle uses an analogy, and this applies to some of the best leaders out there. I'm just running a podcast series with some senior leaders, and one of them yesterday was the co-founder of Mindset Works, the world's biggest mindset business, a guy called Eduardo Braceno, and he practices these things. So if you were going to drill a hole in the wall in the house, you go to the shed, you get the tool, you get the drill, you drill the hole in the wall, you'd finish the job, you put the drill back in the shed, and you'd move on. And best leaders and business people use their brains like a tool, effectively, calmly, and when they finish the job, they quieten the brain and they meditate, or they exercise, or they do something else. And it's easier said than done, but it's critically important to keep that low-grade anxiety noise at bay, because that inhibits us from our growth, whether we like it or not. I used to recoil against this, and then Jason, you've added in the action after visualization point.
Yeah, so really you can visualize as much as you want. You can talk about what I want to do, but unless you're actively doing it, unless you're actively going out there and setting your goals. A book I read a while back is, we know all of this stuff, but why aren't we not doing it?
Yeah.
Why aren't you setting those actions straight away after you visualize what the intent might be? But you need a lot of work. And in that book, Simon told me to read that book, and I did. And I did it last weekend within 2 days, which I was delighted because I loved it that much. But it is action. Without, you can dream, you can put yourself into a really good meditative state, but without the action afterwards and the goal setting and everything else that you need to do, but visualize the intent every single day of what you want to do. It's hugely important.
And it's interesting. I also interviewed John Mattone. I think it was Friday last week, which is probably one of the best interviews I've ever done. And he's the world's #1 executive coach, just an amazing guy. And the full interview comes out in a couple of weeks. And he's the guy who trained Steve Jobs, right? He trained Steve Jobs in terms of how Steve presented. And even Steve Jobs battled against this. He didn't see the point of continually rehearsing his speeches. But at the end of it, we all remember Steve Jobs on the stage, and he had that mix of coolness. There was a magnetism and an empathy, and there was a way that he expressed information that just managed to capture the minds and the souls of billions of people around the world. That was all rehearsed, right? So none of this happens by chance. So this is critically important. Just to move on. So building on the area of confidence and focus, then we have the area of balance, which I think is critically important, because I don't know about any of you, but I have a tendency to be a workaholic. And so, and being a workaholic can have an opposite effect. It can tip you over the edge and you can break. So you do need to balance your life. So Jason.
So this basically comes from a guy called Vishen, if I can pronounce his Lakhani. He's written several books. One of the books is the Code of the Extraordinary Mind. He created Mind Valley. So some of you might already know Mind Valley is massive, huge sort of personal development website. Lots of speakers. The likes of Paul McKenna is heavily involved in this area, so it's massive. So what he basically done, and we're going to go within this in a moment. I'm going to get you to do a few tasks, which I'll read out to you. Is we're going to have a look at the 12 areas of balancing your life, and you have to be quite honest with yourselves with this. And what you're going to do is you're just going to score yourself between an area between 1 and 10, and be honest with you. If you're 1, okay, there's an area that you might need to work on. If you're 10, you must be phenomenal. You must be the Bill Gates of the world, or you must be extraordinary in health. You must be the fastest one in the world. So just ask yourself some honest questions. And what I'd like you to do is, for each category, 1 being weak and 10 being extraordinary. So the first one, I'd like to score yourself on. And if you can do this on your pen and paper now. So the first one is your love and relationship. This is based on where you are right now, not where you're in the future, not where you're in the past. Over the last week, let's suggest that. So measure this, so how happy you are in the current state of your relationships, not only with your wife, but with relationships with your friends and your business partners. So rate yourself there on that. The second one is your friendships, to measure yourself how strong a support network you have around you, business support, other coaching, or whatever it might be, how you have that within your life. Third area is your adventures. How much time do you get to experience the world? Obviously, we've been in lockdown, so we've only been experiencing the world within the 2K or the 5K radius. But are you experiencing the areas around you? For me, I live quite close to the Dublin Mountains, so I'm experiencing lots of different areas up in the mountains and seeing things from a slightly different perspective. And your environment, this is the quality of your home, car, workspace, living space you live in, travel accommodations. Rate that. Your health and fitness, where you see yourself right now. Are you healthy? Are you running a lot? But then if you're running a lot or you're exercising a lot, are you eating the right sort of foods in there? Are you having the right conditions around you? Are you walking or whatever it is? Given the rating due to your age as well. So myself, I'm 50. I feel like I'm probably about 6 or 7. I'd like to get to an 8. But see yourself on your intellect, your intellectual life, how much you're learning and growing, how much you're obviously on this webinar now. So you're obviously rating yourself pretty high up now. So that's good. So how much other time are you learning? Then we go into your skills. How much skills are you making right now? Or are you stagnating? Are you not learning anything? So again, good thing that you're on this and probably other webinars as well to inspire you to move forward. Your spiritual life, how much you devote to your spiritual life. I don't mean go to the church or anything like that. What I mean is deep down, do you meditate? Do you think of other things? Do you contemplate, practice, feeling balanced life and peaceful life? If you are religious, then go with that as well. And have a look at your career. Are you growing or are you stuck in a rut? I know we're just moving out of lockdown, but are you looking into different areas of your career? Are you looking at coming out of the career that you were in to somewhere new? So rate yourself on that. And then your creative life, how much you engage in your activity channels, your creativity. Then your family life, that's an obvious one. Your children, your parents, your siblings, other areas of that. Are you connecting back with them? And this is a good time to do that. So I'd like to see you rate yourself pretty high on that. And your community life, are you playing the notes? Because we've been in lockdown and we probably know our neighbours better than we've ever known them before. So for me, I'd like to see myself rate myself a little bit higher in that.
Yeah, just in the interest of time, I think what we'll do is, hold on, we had another slide, but just if any of you want to take a screenshot of that, or you'll have this anyway, but just reflect on that. I think it's really important to do that, to self-calibrate where you're at.
Do we have any questions on this as we come? I just want to make sure that it's an interactive session, and
I don't see any. Here we go.
Are you happy for people to ask questions whilst you're on the fly, guys?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. Well, I think Shima might have to release. I think people can mute and unmute themselves now. I think Shima's just changed the.
Yeah, everyone's on mute, but everyone can also unmute themselves.
Okay. Well, far away, guys, if you have a question. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll stop it. Just fire away at any time. We'll keep going until we hear somebody or we see the orange pop up. So, cool. Okay. So let me just move on. So we've looked a little bit about focus, confidence, the importance of balance, and self-calibrating where you're at. Now we now start to bundle this into this whole area of emotions and emotional intelligence, and this is critically important at this time. So those people who have a fixed mindset and are relatively low emotional intelligence and self-awareness will inevitably find these times tougher. Okay, so those high in emotional intelligence, and we'll discuss this in a little bit more detail, have an ability to listen and arrive at negotiation with a calm mind more than those who aren't high in emotional intelligence. People high in emotional intelligence generally feel better emotionally and create objective value for their counterparty. And this is critically important assuming we're all in business. We need to make money, we need to reach out to others, we need to pivot our business, and we need to attract people to that idea. So emotional intelligence isn't just some arcane scientific subject. It connects us to people and enables us to make money as business leaders. So I just wanted to share this beautiful graphic with you. This is from an organizational psychologist called Plutchik, Plutchik. And this shows very nicely the broad array of emotions that we all as human beings enjoy/suffer from. And so just to explain, those emotions in the center circle are the most extreme in their individual families. And so rage is the most extreme version, the red color on the left, in the anger annoyance family. And conversely, the opposite is terror is the most extreme version of fear and apprehension family. So just be mindful of that. We all suffer from all of these and experience all of these at different times in our lives for different reasons. And also you can see that if you combine some of the emotions, because we're human beings and we're complex. So for example, trust plus fear on the right-hand side equals submission. Joy plus trust equals love. So this is it's just a handy tool to have when you're feeling whether you're meditating or whether you're just sitting alone and just feeling sad, or you're feeling ecstatic about something. Just reflect on where you are in that. But it's also important just to reflect that when you're dealing with somebody, that other person is a human being and they are experiencing one of these as well. And so the best business people, the best sales people, the best negotiators have that self-awareness within them of where they are at any particular time, but also have a situational awareness as good as possible to read where the other person is. So I just wanted to share that with you, and we'll keep going, Jason.
Yeah.
Because we've got another little exercise for you to do, and this is really, really important. So we run a whole load of other programs in business schools, and these series of 24 questions, you don't have to do them now, but have a look at them, take a screenshot. You'll have these afterwards. These have been calibrated through 10,000 participants, so there's a lot of science behind this. And in a nutshell, if you look at the questions, if you answer those questions, and maybe do this afterwards in the interest of time, answer them in look at them for no more than 5 seconds, right? Try and discipline yourself to do this, to maximize this for you. 5 seconds, and try and answer with your gut feeling. Try and keep your mind out of these answers as much as you can, and go with your gut feeling, right? And write down the first answer that comes to your gut, the gut brain rather than your head brain. And then if you use the scoring mechanism bottom right, which looks complicated, but for example, what it does, it defines, there are 3 different types of emotional beings, broadly speaking, and we can be a blend of them. There are rational, and these are business people, rational business people, positive business people, and negative business people, as you can see on the bottom right. And so negative business people, the score, if you're scoring on the numbers 5, 7, 9, 12, 13, 18, 22, 24, if you say true for all of those, then if you use the scoring mechanism there, you'll see that you're skewing towards becoming more of a negative type business thinker, operator. So any questions, just pop them up on the screen and we can answer as we go along. But it's important to do that exercise. A lot of us are a blend generally of rational and positive, but we all have a little bit of negative. And I think this is going to be skewed a little bit more during these times as well. We're all concerned, we're all anxious, we're all worried about the future, but just bear that in mind.
I think that's a hugely powerful thing to do, actually. It really helps you find yourself and areas that you can improve on. So I think there's a worthy exercise to do. I've done this, and when you shared this with me, I did this, and I'm a bit of a mixed bag, because we all get negative at times, and it's how can we learn from these negative times so we don't go back there again?
Yeah, I see we have one more person join us, which is good. And we'll just keep moving because we're halfway, and we're actually halfway through the slides, which is great timing. So Jason, cognitive bias.
Okay, this is a massive image here, and there's a lot of stuff on there. So I would advise you to have a look at this. I'm not going to go into too much detail now, but whatever we say and suggest to our mind is how we remember information, and too much information and the inputs that we get is not enough meaning, or we need to act fast on the reactions. I'm not going to go too much into detail on this. The cognitive bias is how our brains work and how our brains are operating. So suggest you to have a look into this in a little bit more detail, or find it on the internet. You can find this and similar images to this, just to establish how you can communicate a little bit more effectively with yourself and with other people.
Great. I just see Joseph, my good friend Joseph McGuire, has joined us. Which
hey,
is
Joseph.
And so just for Joseph's sake, just to repeat that this is the first of 3 sessions. Today we're dealing with a lot of the skill sets and a lot of the issues that that's useful to be aware of in terms of our minds, our 3 minds, in terms of what contributes to enabling and maximizing our confidence, right, at any one particular time. That doesn't mean we have to be unduly ecstatic. It's just our natural confidence levels. And then the second session, we use some of those skills and we build them to look at particularly business and rebalancing your business through transformation, change, innovation, collaboration, etc. And then the third session then is how do we use all those combined skills from the first and second to sell and to grow our business. So just keep moving on. Hold on a second. So belief. Okay, so there's a lot of buzzwords around belief, and I think there's confusion about what's the difference between belief, thoughts, emotions, behavioral patterns, physical symptoms, etc. But a belief is an acceptance, generally speaking, that something exists or is true, especially without proof. So we need to be a bit careful about beliefs. So some of us can believe something, but when we're challenged on it, we can't actually prove what we're saying. And that's often the case with, for example, if you have a spiritual faith or religious faith, there's nothing wrong with that, but just be careful with using the word belief all the time. I believe this, I believe that. It's different to some of the other things we're discussing here. So thoughts always come through our head mind, our brain mind, and they are psychological. And these are what we think, and they can include beliefs, right? So that's thoughts is the first thing. So you might be thinking now, oh my God, my business is in a serious place. That's what's coming through your psychological, your mind. That then may transfer itself into your emotions, right? So first of all, thoughts, things come through your mind, your brain, then transfer into your emotions, which is generally speaking, and there is a lot of science on this. I've just finished reading an amazing book called Buddha's Brain by a neurosurgeon, a psychotherapist, and a meditative leader. And there is definite proof that there is an interaction between the mind and the heart. There is, you couldn't go as far as saying your heart thinks, but there are definite electric signals that move between your heart and the mind. And people often talk about the vagus nerve being the transfer mechanism between the two. Whether you want to call that area between the vagus nerve, your heart and your mind, your soul. If you have a faith, you might do that. But there definitely is an interaction between the mind and the heart. And a lot of now neurosurgeons are starting to say, and I've mentioned this guy, James Doty, who wrote the amazing book Into the Magic Shop, are starting to say that emotions come not just from your brain, but they come from a mixture of your heart and your brain. And then, so you think something, you feel something through your emotions, and then you behave. So, oh my God, my business is failing. You feel like gut feeling, and then that might then transfer into your body, your behavioral patterns. So you tense up. So that's what you do. Your behavioral patterns is what you do or what you don't do. And then finally, that then can transfer into physical symptoms. You could start sweating, heart palpitations. That's how our body reacts. So it's important to break it down like that. Be mindful of those 4 steps: thoughts, emotions, behavioral patterns, and physical symptoms. Jason, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I've just started a psychology course, and part of the psychology is on beliefs. So 2,000 years ago, do you remember those little puppets that you have a candle behind and you project images and all that? So these 4 people were in the cave. Behind that, there was a puppeteers, and they were projecting images and scary images of this, that, and the other. The 4 people actually seeing the images, they believed that they were Satans, and they believed that the world was constructed through these images that were projected to them in the shadows. One of the guys actually went, hang on a minute, there must be more of the world to this. So what he did is he stepped behind the puppeteers, and he saw that, and he went, oh, there must be a little bit more now. So I believe now that these guys are scaring us, and I've got a different idea of belief. So he actually stepped outside of the cave, and he went, wow, this whole world is different to what I thought it was. Now he believes that the world is slightly different to his initial perceptions from the puppeteers throwing the shadows. And then what he did is he explored, and then he went back into the cave. And what he actually tried to do is he tried to convince the people that the world is a different place to actually what they thought it was. So their belief structures were slightly different to the man that actually went outside of the cave and explored the world into what it was. And he expressed, so this is what the world is. And they go, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's this, it's something else. So what it was, people have different beliefs on different things. So it's all down in the proof. It's all down into actually what you actually go and explore and find. Something is loosely based on this, but it's all to do with your beliefs and how you perceive the world and how you realize the world, what it actually is.
And I guess this is also feeds into us as business owners. So it's very easy to allow yourself to believe that it's all doom and gloom ahead. But, you know, we were talking to Ronan before, we actually don't know what's around the corner. We don't know, like there could be an announcement in the next month that there is a breakthrough with some vaccine. There could be. Just as bad things happen to us out of the blue, good things happen to us out of the blue as well. So we need to maintain this calm, courageous, compassionate state of mind through as much of these things, downtimes and uptimes. Everything passes. Resilience. So building forward. So this whole area of resilience, I've spoken about this on many programs. I think that was my cat trying to get in, hopefully not. So the whole area of resilience is critically important. And so what is resilience? So the resilience fundamentally is the capacity to cope with life. It's how you manage your emotional, behavioral responses. So we talked about emotions and behaviors, emotional and behavioral responses. So you can't prevent your thoughts. Remember the first point, thoughts, but you can manage your emotional and behavioral responses. The segment at the top right is, there's a lot of words, but it's very important. Resilience is a learned skill. We're actually born resilient. I think we're only actually born with one fear, and I think that's fear of heights, if I remember rightly. Maybe I'm wrong. But we learn to be fearful during our childhood. We definitely learn to be fearful. I just interviewed, I think I said yesterday, Eduardo Braceno, the co-founder of Mindset Matters, which is a company he's founded in the States with an amazing woman called Carol Dweck, who has written the million-seller Mindset. And, he talks about his childhood. He grew up in Venezuela, was very fearful about his own limitations, moved to America, was given great opportunities, and now is the CEO of Mindset Works, rather, an amazing company. But at the end of the interview, when we stopped recording, he asked me, how did I do? How did I do? Did I talk too much about myself? And so he's learned to examine his mindset. And for him, that's a way of having a growth mindset. Asking everybody, how do I do? How am I progressing? Don't be fearful of showing vulnerability. So, but unfortunately at school, particularly in the Western world, we're told, be quiet, say nothing, don't do anything. So we're born resilient, but we learn to be fearful. And we're also taught to be conservative and fearful of change. Another thing, and this applies to me without going into too much detail, we learn anxiety and fear through the behaviors that we see in our parents. And so I've always suffered from imposter syndrome, anxiety all my life, even though if you looked at my LinkedIn profile, it looks like a great career, but I've had battles and demons I've had to break through. And I've been through my own therapy. I have no problem saying it. And part of that was just deconstructing unhelpful learned behaviors. Fears, false evidence actually realized. Most fear never transpires. 99% of your fears and your worries don't transpire. That doesn't mean to say that the 1% does transpire and business do fail like mine has, but you need to manage this and sift through this. And so resilience is a really critically important area. And roughly speaking, there are three types. There's self-resilience, which you need to successfully manage your own life. There's societal resilience, how you interact in society. And there's life resilience, how you deal with life itself. Jason, do you want to add anything?
I think we've all suffered in one way or another. And myself, I might come across as extremely confident and this, that, but we all have imposter syndrome. I've gone through a lot of stress and anxieties, and I think you have to be honest. I was dyslexic as a kid, so I had to realize that, why I wasn't understanding words, why I wrote something down and it wasn't the way it was. So as a kid, I struggled with those areas, and I started to think to myself, am I not clever? Am I this? And that really sort of pushes you down. But really, in reality, you just have to look at it, and I've really learned over the last 10 years, is you just have to learn it a different way. And then once you learn it in a different way, you can actually understand the words and behavior in a slightly different way. So there's ways and means, but a lot of it's all, the fear is in our mind. A guy called Owen Fitzpatrick that I admire, work with, he did a TED talk about 2 or 3 years ago, and it's all to do with the fear in your mind, and talks about imposter syndrome and everything. But he actually did it in a rap, and it was highly recommend you. I'll share you the link at the end of it, and this is all to do with resilience.
Cool. So, Jason.
Okay, the reason why I put this up is we all know The Life of Brian. I think it's The Life of Brian. And this guy here that had his arms chopped off, he's still going for it. And the next action after this, he says he chops his leg off, and then he chops the other leg off, but he still wants to fight. The slide isn't showing. Okay.
Okay.
They might be able to just see the image. So there's a battle scene between two warriors in the ancient times. One of the warriors was fighting the other guy who wanted to get a little bit far, and he kept chopping his limbs off. But the fighter, dressed in black, was still wanting to fight until he chopped off the other arm, and then he chopped off the legs. It just shows you how resilience can work.
Yeah. So building on resilience is this whole area of grit. Jason.
So grit is it's basically based on resilience, produced by a lady called Angela Duckworth, and she's a psychologist. She's an author. She did the book Grit, and she interviewed some of the most impressive people out there in the world, and found out from asking lots and lots of questions, which we're going to share with you in a few moments, what grit actually means. Is it the ability or your natural ability to rise up over challenging areas? Is it the talent that you have? Or is it the hours that you spend practicing like the Michael Jordan, practice on failing until he perfected it of his basketball career, or other people like that? What makes people strive and makes their skill become better and better and better? So to really understand how grit actually works is really to ask yourself some questions. And we have a grit assessment. And this is a good thing to do. And again, it's to see how you are over the next 24 hours. It's all don't know whether you want to do this now or take a screenshot and do this at a later stage.
Yeah.
And I encourage you to definitely read the book because it's highly influential in how you can have a growth mindset.
Yeah, I think it's best if we can take a screenshot, but everybody will have this for a week anyway. So do this in your own time. I think it's really important. And then, so have a look at that. And if any of you miss taking a screenshot, just let us know and we can go back to it later. And then take a screenshot of the scoring mechanism there as well. This is really, really important. So one of the people I interviewed was a guy called Ted Rubin. He's the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer of an American company called Photify. He's also voted by Forbes the world's #1 social media and social relationship expert, right? And this guy has come up with the concept return on relationship, R on R. And we talk about this in our second session. And so we'll talk about it specifically in relation to your business in the second session, but it's really important to say that if you look at his social media, Ted Rubin, if you follow Ted Rubin, I guarantee if you contact him, he'll respond to you because he's a lovely guy. Every day, he says the same things on social media. He has his top 12 tips to maximize your relationship building, to maximize your chances of building business and building followers. There's a question there. Let me just click on that. I missed page 1 of the assessment. Hold on a second. That's from Sinead. Let's just go back. Okay. There you go, Sinead. And so Ted Rubin, every day he's posting stuff on completely repeating stuff on his tips for building social relationships and providing value to clients. And to some people it's boring, but it's constant habit and constant habit. And he's known for the social relationship, social selling guru. So, and grit is a key part of this. You need to have self-awareness as to what you're doing is right now, and you need to be able to pivot. And we talk about it in the second session, but having said all that, you just got to keep moving forward.
Just want to cover this on grit. It's really to do with your passion and your perseverance of, you can have a look at, I finish whatever I begin. So that really covers, and a lot of these questions, my interests change from year to year. So this all encompasses how you actually are. But a lot of this is sampled from a lot of American adults. So the score is reflection how you see yourself, not other people. So just take this all into context.
Yep. Okay, moving on. We have 27 minutes to go. So I mentioned before resilience and the 3 types, and so we're going to just discuss here a couple of the key self-resilience. So this, remember, self societal and life resilience. I'm talking about self-resilience here, because that's critically important to us as business leaders. We let's be honest, we are all struggling, right? To a greater or lesser extent, and it depends on the day, right? Somebody would be lying if they say they're not struggling. We're all struggling because change and transformation challenges us, right? And so the first one is self-acceptance, right? So we have to accept where we are at this point. Those business people who excel are people who have been through programs like this and live on the basis that like the way life is, right? They react to life the way it is rather than the way they want it to be, right? And that's critically important. But to do that, you need to examine yourself. So what is self-acceptance? It's being comfortable with yourself unconditionally, rather than through self or third-party judgment ratings. Every human being on this planet is equal, full stop, right? Every human being is equal. What is different to that, what in addition to that, we all have different strengths, and those strengths and capabilities can be rated. But as human beings, we are all rated 100%, right? And I think social media mixes up the difference between us as humans and our capabilities. They're different things, right? So what you and others can measure is how you behave, your skills. That's what I've said, but you cannot be measured as a human being. You're equal to everybody. So it's important to accept yourself as you are, separate from what you do. And sometimes that's easier said than done. You know, I run a business, and sometimes I wake up and the first thing I think about is my business, but I neglect to think about me as a human being. I also happen to be blessed with a wife and children. I'm living in a safe country, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really important to separate those things. The other thing then, we're talking about confidence in this first session, right? So confidence, everything we've just talked about is relevant to us making decisions and having pragmatic judgment. I've mentioned we need to sometimes make compassionate, calm, but often courageous decisions to maybe shut our business down. It might be as brutal as that. I've had to go through that myself. So confidence is feeling sure of yourself, your abilities in a realistic, secure way. That's really what we're talking about in this first session today. Confidence is feeling sure of yourself, your abilities in a realistic, secure way. And so doing some of the reflection exercises, and we've got 2 or 3 more still to do in the last 25 minutes, critically important. Pragmatism is being skilled at analyzing twists and turns of life and finding effective ways of seeking resolution. So it's the opposite of panicking. It's being pragmatic, and it's not as far forward as being optimistic or blindly, naively optimistic, because that can be equally as damaging. So it's important to take life as it comes rather than as you think it should be, as I've said. It's accept what you cannot change and focus on those things you can. It's interesting, 12-step programs use that in their preambles. The serenity prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That should apply to all of us. Just know the difference between the things you can and can't change, and focus on the things you can change, and I guarantee life will feel a bit simpler. Jason, do you want to add anything on confidence?
I think we've discussed the areas of confidence. Just want to throw it back to everyone there. Do we have any questions where we are right now? Is there any concerns? Anything that resonates with you? What we've been speaking about? Please unmute yourself if you do want to get involved.
I'll keep moving, and
we'll just keep moving forward.
Yeah. So the third then area of self-confidence is, so we've now looked at self-acceptance, we've looked at confidence and decision-making. Is the third area is self and situational awareness, which is critical for sales resilience. There's no point in being blindly naive, everything will be fine, when chances are it won't be fine unless you do a lot of the stuff we're doing in day 2, which is around pivoting your business. But you need to look at yourself first, hence this first session. So self-awareness is having a clear view of what makes you, your thoughts, emotions, feelings, behaviors. Remember, we mentioned those earlier. So having a clear view of what makes you. Situational awareness is comprehending what's going on around you. So for example, one of the participants in our sales resilience program a few weeks ago, Jason, was a guy who owned a similar to Ronan's business, I think. It was a catering furnishings business, and
That's right.
He provided, kitchens to high-end hotels, and he felt very strongly that that business will probably not be there for a while, and was agonizing as to whether to pivot his website and to move towards providing his services to homes. But he was worried the perception, was he downgrading? And my view, and I spoke to Ted Rubin about this afterwards, that as long as you're honest and authentic about your situation, everybody knows people in that business are not going to be finding it easy now. So be honest about that on your new website and say you're looking to pivot into this area or move into this area. These are the clients you've serviced in the past. Because of the current market, you need to pivot. People will respect that and understand that. Be honest and open, authentic. And
I think that is powerful, hugely powerful. If you can show up of a bit of trust and a little bit of vulnerability, because people will respect that, and especially in the situation that we're all in, we're all vulnerable and we've all seen it. I mean, like, we're not all superhuman, but if you show that side of you, people will respect that. And especially when you're slightly changing your business process or your concept from the high end, the super high end, as that gentleman was, to working with the general public, which is something that he hadn't worked with before. So he just had to seize the opportunity and go for it.
Yep. So that's self and situational awareness. Calmness, just very briefly, it might sound a bit trivial, but if you imagine you're going for a business meeting, I think somebody just raised a point there. James is joined. Yep. Okay. Welcome, James. So calmness. So if you imagine if you're going to a business meeting or you're talking to your bank manager or whatever it is at this point, and you're the sort of person who turns up and you're all sweaty and agitated and you've been looking at your phone in the morning and you're going to be agitated and your mind is not going to be as effective as the person who spent 10 minutes sitting in the toilet, doing breathing exercises, relaxing and being calm before a big negotiating meeting. And I've seen this. I've been in big negotiations before, and people who are much more laser focused and effective calm their mind and calm their body, a bit like James Doty said before. I think there's a couple of chat points there.
Oh, I just said welcome,
James.
Something.
So that's critically important. Jason, you're going to say?
Yeah, I used to work with a guy called Jack Black. He's been doing mindfulness and all of that for about 30 plus years, Scottish guy. I went to a few of his courses, and what he suggested and what he does before he goes to these big meetings, goes to the reception, sits down and says, "Where's your gents?" So he goes and sits into the gents for 10 minutes. And what he does, he just visualizes and just calms his mind down and sees, he visualizes a good outcome of the meeting, and he sends good vibes. This similar to what we're talking about here is calming your mind a little bit so you can just go out into that meeting or whatever it might be, feeling good about yourself.
Whenever I do an exam or I've done an exam or I present a lecture or a program, I haven't had a chance this morning, but normally I go for a walk beforehand for 10, 20, 30 minutes just to clear my mind and just to chill. So whatever it takes, but that's critically important, particularly in these times. Just move on. Motivation. So we're going to have another little self-assessment here and you can all take a screenshot. So we've looked at emotions, but then there's the separate subject of motivation, and we'll do a little motivation test in the morning. In a second. But these are some key bullet points to keep motivated. And so it's important, if you don't have a mentor, to reach out to a mentor, whether it's an official mentor or not, somebody who's experiencing a habit you want to do or you want to change. Surround yourself with positive people. That's critically important. You become who you associate with. I'll never forget that saying, you become who you associate with. If you associate with toxic, negative people, chances are you'll become like them. Use exercise as one of your daily goals. Jason's already referred to that. Regularly review your goals and progress. Continue to set new goals. Keep the momentum up, and internal motivation and how you see goals as a well-formed outcome. Jason, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, so in the world of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, the way that we do our goal setting is you set your goals into the normal way, but what you have to do is you have to see the outcome as being well-formed. So what would that mean if I do achieve that? How would that impact on other people? What has to happen for that to happen to get that goal? What else do I need to do to get to that goal and to that outcome? So it's a way of asking you lots and lots of questions about that outcome. Is it real? Am I taking a chance here? Is it going to happen? So that's how a well-formed outcome is within your goal-orientated. There's lots of other ways to do goals, but well-formed is clarity.
Yeah. Okay. So again, another screenshot here. Alternatively, just relax, have a look, and you'll have this for a week. But this is, again, this is another process whereby you can self-analyze your motivational style, right? And there are basically three types of, and this is a program, I lecture on negotiation and sales and various things. This is a program that, again, was an American-based program. I think about 8,000 people went through this. So it's quite empirical in its outcomes. And basically, if you look at the 9 questions, and we don't have time here, but look at the 9 questions and answer from your gut mind rather than your head mind as much as you can, which scenario do you prefer, right? So for example, number 1, would you prefer to have $2,400 to yourself if the counterparty you're negotiating with could take 400, or would you rather both of you had more, or would you both rather have equal, right? So go through each of those 9, answer you with your gut feeling rather than your mind feeling, and then you can see the scoring mechanism on the right. And what that determines is whether you're a more cooperative type sales negotiator, whether you're more competitive, or whether you're more individualistic. And again, you can be a combination of all 3. Generally speaking, I train American students. I would have thought they would have been more individualistic. I assumed all Americans were individualistic, but funny enough, younger Americans seem to be a lot more socially aware, societal aware, more empathetic, more open-minded, and so they were more cooperative, right? Whereas I think my generation, or the baby boomers, would be a lot more individualistic. I think in Ireland, I think there's a blend of cooperative and competitive, and maybe a little bit individualistic, but have a look at that as well. And these tests, right, these little analytical tools are there for you to really sort of build and blend a feeling about where you're at, and but don't get hung up on the outcomes of all these. So that's motivational style assessment. I managed to get the word out in the end. Jason, just before you come onto this, there are 3 ways to develop yourself, and and this is the first one, and this has been proven in a whole bunch of programs, that there is really no better alternative than to do. That's the most important way to develop yourself. Jason.
Yeah, it's we know all of this stuff, and we all do some of the stuff that we all have here in front of us and displayed by confidence and this, that, and the other. But if you're not doing it, or you're not practicing it, then it's all in your head, and then your ego is in your head, but you're not actually doing it. So again, it's to sit down and go, right, I'll do this. I'll pick up the phone. I will do this. The fear is all in your head, but if you don't actually go ahead and do it. So key thing about developing yourself is to teach other people. Once you've mastered something, I say master quite loosely, but once you understand this, like Simon and I understand this process, so we teach other people to become better individuals or better companies than themselves. Something that I've been doing for a number of years is to learn all this material and go, well, how can I teach others to be excellent, or so they can be excellent in themselves at what they do or in their lives. Same as coaching. Be sort of an industry leader if you can. Be credible at the areas that you specialize in, so other people can look after you, and then you can feed forward. Something that Marshall Goldsmiths always say is feeding forward. Good way to do it is give some good quality information and feed it forward to other people that they can learn. Understand the different departments within your personal life and your business, and become a mentor. Become a mentor of other people, to other people, because then you learn, but you give the gift to other people as a mentor. And that's some of the areas to develop yourself.
And then just building on that, so, you know, there's no alternative but to be able to build your positive focus, right? You'll struggle to validly build your positive focus if you haven't actually done, tried and tested, failed as well, and picked yourself up. So We are what we think and who we associate with. I've already said that. Whatever you rest your mind on, whether it's anger, fear, self-doubt, etc., your brain will eventually take that shape. It's very, very, very important because we're social creatures to connect with others, positive others. I've mentioned that, not negative others, as far as we can avoid negative others, with enthusiasm, create joy and delight for others. Lean into every moment, expecting positive results, and be bold, calm, compassionate, courageous. That slide, by the way, I've shamelessly taken from an amazing book called Bonus Time, and I've added some of my words to it, and he won't mind, by a guy called Brian Penny here in Dublin, who was a chronic heroin addict and is now completing his PhD in neuroscience. And he's just released his book Bonus Time, and it's just an amazing book. And so I hope he doesn't mind me using this, but I've given him a plug. And I also interviewed him recently, and just that is positive focus. You know, he went from an absolute hopeless rock bottom where he was seeing stuff to finishing a PhD in neuroscience. So most things are possible if you apply positive focus. Then the second area, then Jason, then so 70% is by doing. Then the second most important way of developing yourself is through others.
Mm-hmm. Something else I just wanted to say on this, on the previous slide. Our brain is a supercomputer. So imagine the computer that you're looking on right now. So whatever you type in is whatever the brain will find the solutions to what you've actually said. So if you type, oh, I can't do this today, the brain will actually find a way to get the answer from what you've actually said. If you say to yourself, oh, I can do this, or I'm going to do this, this is something that I can definitely achieve, then your brain will actually go ahead and go, hang on a minute, I can actually find the answers based on what I've actually said to myself. So this is really powerful to the previous slide and to what we've actually been talking about. Remember, what we say to ourselves on a day-to-day basis, our brain will find the answer, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. It's really powerful that you remember to do this and remember to take stock every now and again. There's I'm probably going off a little bit on track here, but there's a mantra that I have been taught to me is when you find yourself and your brain that goes into difficult situations is, for me, I tell myself to shut the fuck up, or you can say stop, delete. So if you find your mind going, oh no, this is a difficult situation, or whatever it might be, tell yourself to shut the fuck up and then carry on, because this is hugely important to progress where you want to go and stop that negative thoughts that are going in your head. Something that I just wanted to share because it's massively important that you can actually do this. So we looked at developing yourself through others. Myself and Simon have received formal coaching. We're both accredited coaches, but we're slightly different ways. Marshall Goldsmith and myself have been accredited coaching and business and mind coaching. So receive coaching from others. I'm receiving coaching from others because I know I'm not perfect. I'm definitely not perfect. And the more help that I can get, it's going to help me. And again, it comes back to finding yourself a mentor, someone that can actually look at yourself on a holistic point of view. I was on a call yesterday with a guy called Scott in the US, and he suggested that I need help in the areas that I want to progress my career going forward. And he said, look, I'm more than willing to give you help and mentor you because I've done it in California in some successful businesses that he's done. So that's massively important. So develop yourself through webinars like this. Udemy, I know Joseph McGuire on there. He's created a wonderful Udemy course. So go onto as many courses, conferences when they're actually open, webinars. I go through a lot of them and take notes of every single one that you go on so you can refer back to them. A friend of mine, Shay, when he reads a book, he takes and puts everything onto a PowerPoint slide so he remembers. And then you read the book again and go, oh, I'll take those points out. And if you've got Audible, you can actually take the notes out of Audible and then you can cross-reference everything. And it gives you a really good point for me going, well, I need to be doing that more often. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been doing that. And I remember it a lot more because I'm actually taking the notes away. Quick pyramid of learning. You read something or you get into lecture, you remember a certain amount of information. Then you read a book, unless you're actually taking the detail away. You're reading it, goes into the subconscious, and then sometimes you just move it away. Audio visual, like what we're doing now, if you're writing notes, happy days, I'm happy for you, and you can learn. Demonstrating something that you've done, product, information, whatever you want, and then you're more likely to remember. This all comes from training needs analysis, part of stuff that I've done in the past, and discussion purposes, and then practice by doing, and then teaching others to do this, to be exceptional at what they do.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Joseph. I highly recommend you have a look at Joseph McGuire's work on facial reading. He's excellent. He's the #1 leader in Ireland, if not in Europe, about the expressions on people's faces. Is fascinating.
Yeah. That brings us on in the last 5 or 6 minutes, and we've got about a handful of slides. So wrapping everything up into everything we've discussed, really the most important thing, we've said it a number of times now, is consistency, consistent habit. And it's interesting. I know, Jason, you did a video about this recently, but it's so true. In most books on mindset you'll read, it takes about 6 weeks. It can take more or less for certain people, but for 6 weeks of doing something the same thing every day for 6 weeks. So we're looking at less than 50 days. So for example, Kira Kelly at News Talk has done this 100 days of walking. That's done for a reason, right? It takes about 6 weeks to form a habit, a new habit, which then filters into your mind. Your mind adjusts to that new way of doing stuff. So it'd be very interesting. You know, we've spent now the best part of 10 weeks, can't believe it's 2.5 months, effectively not kissing each other, hugging each other, shaking hands, avoiding each other. That's going to take a while to shake off, if we ever shake it off, you know. Mm-hmm. And so being more positive, you know, all the stuff we've spoken about being self-aware and looking at motivation and situational awareness. If you practice this stuff daily and you're reflecting daily on all this stuff and you self-calibrate, then you can build your own self-awareness muscle. You can simplify life as well by observing yourself, by being mindful, by setting mindset change, by using energy boosting strategies, which can then feed into a sharper business mind by then developing and keeping to goals, purpose and values. A little plug on a course that this is a program I run called the 7 Steps to Successful Growth. I'm actually mentoring somebody this afternoon on this program, and there's no magic to it. There's loads of programs, but it really builds on a lot of what we're talking about here, but applies it to leadership growth and business growth and brand growth. And that's just something that I put together because these are things I've done over the years, and I wanted to create my own habit by having my own program. And then, Jason, you've mentioned a Netflix series, Michael Johnson, and I also
Michael Jordan, I think. It's
that's my typo.
We know who he is anyway. He's the big, tall basket player. So if anyone's watched it, happy days. It's really good. But he talks about part of it is when he was younger, he didn't get into the basketball team that he wanted to get into. They say, well, you're not good enough. So what he did is he practiced and he practiced and he practiced and he practiced throwing and he practiced throwing. Then he excelled himself. And then he went on to the Olympics and everyone looked at him in awe about how skillful he actually was. But the only way he did that was he failed so many times, and in his head he failed. But he failed because he wanted to move forward to get better at what he does. And as we know, the history of Michael Jordan, he's in the history books as being one of the best basketball players in the world. But all he did was by sheer grit, perseverance, and building that habit, and all of the things that we've been speaking about today.
And that's really important to say. So if anybody gets a chance to read the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, I've mentioned the book and the business mindset works. And the difference between somebody with a fixed mindset and a growth mindset is not what I thought before. So somebody with a fixed mindset, if you said to them, you are the best, right? I always assume that you should just tell people you are the best, right? But if you say that to somebody with a fixed mindset and it proves then that they are not the best, they come second in class, they struggle to cope with it. Whereas somebody with a growth mindset, if you say to them, if you don't say you're the best, but if you say you can always do better, try doing this, then chances are they will try and do better. So, so saying to somebody you are the best can sometimes be a little bit too brittle. So it's just important to say that. I think what I was doing there, Jason, was I was blending Magic Johnson with Michael Jordan. But anyway,
it's the same thing.
Yep. And so just to exactly, that's that I've just mentioned the mindset, the difference between fixed and growth mindset. It's on this slide here. I really recommend you have a look at the analysis that Carol Dweck has done in this space. It's just mind blowing. Excuse the pun. Mindset shift. Jason, do you want
so it's really about what you can control, and going through questions is what can I do, as opposed to, again, when we spoke about typing in stuff into your brain, that's the answer. But what can you do right now? What can you do tomorrow to make a difference, as opposed to what you can't do? If you focus on what you can't do, the brain will find the answer. So what you can do. So the growth area, as we talked about the growth mindset, what am I doing now to grow? What have I learned? What have I done today to grow? If you sat there, done nothing, well, that's fine. But what are you doing on a day-to-day basis to grow? For me, I'm in the midst of putting together a online mindset growth sales course. It's taking me a little bit longer. It's still going to take me a little bit longer, but I'm learning lots about actually how to do this. And the attention, what you should focus on, what you should not focus on. Focus on things, again, what you can do, your attention to now, your vigilance. What do you need to keep on doing that you've done really well, and go, well, I'm going to keep on doing that because that's really good. I like that. And that gives me a good feeling inside. And then patience. Not everything's going to happen straight away. I'm one of the most impatient people in the world because I want it now. But sometimes you have to take a step back. I want that course to run right now, but it's all on paper now. It's not there. So you have to take a step back and take a big breath in. And what can you create and do this in time? It's probably going back to exactly what I've just said. How can I create more? How can I? And Simon, you're very good at that. And I look at you in awe sometimes and go, where did that other course come from? I don't remember you speaking about that. And I've got a lot of stuff in my head that I need to create. And there's a lot of stuff I just need to focus on other stuff, as well as my family and everything else that can be a distraction for me. Someone else said yesterday to me, said, well, we sit back and watch Netflix and we bombard and we go through 2 or 3 episodes a night and sit back and 2 or 3 hours of TV time. But that's 2 or 3 hours of TV time you can create.
Exactly.
You can do something different. So just food for thought.
Absolutely. And just wrapping up the last 2 slides, I know we're just hitting time now. So everything we've discussed today is about opening your mind to the way effective business leaders think, the tools that they're aware of, all the stuff we've mentioned, and we'll repeat them at the start of the second session on Friday morning. And so it might seem that this session was a little bit academic and a little bit arty, but it's critically important to be aware of these tools, to open your mind, to then apply these, to then pivot your business in the next session. So effective leaders do all these things, and they are calm, they listen, they have no problem being measured, and they're resilient. So there is a relevance, a real relevance, and you'll see why in this next session, because it's been proven with effective leaders, they do all these things we've been talking about, because they have what we discussed, which is a growth mindset, the awareness of their emotions and limitations. They've looked at everything we've dealt with. And I don't think we have time really, Jason, for this, but I think if everybody just reflects on this before the next session, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think it's a good, powerful thing. I know we've gone over time, but take a snapshot of this and then refer back to it for the next time. What do you want to start doing? What do you want to stop doing? Procrastination for me sometimes, and I think we all get that. What do you want to do less of? What do you want to do with this? When exactly? And how long exactly? When, where? And be specific. And be specific. And on top of that, have clarity of everything that you do. Because the more you have clarity, then you have better focus. And then the better focus that you have, then you are moving in the right direction of having a growth mindset.
Yeah. So that's the end of the first session around the tools and some of the techniques and tips of effective business leaders in terms of being aware of some of the key aspects that feed into confidence. And this slide, I think, sums it up well. All of these aspects are the key aspects that feed into self-awareness, which then feeds into confidence, which then allows you to have the optimal tools to address each aspect of that infograph, which includes your business, which comes under financial and occupational, etc. So I think with that, Adam, I think we've covered this first session. The second session, as I said, will be much more business focused. And the third session will be focused entirely on sales and business growth. But we had to analyze these personal confidence tools first.
Yeah, quite understand. Yeah, I have been listening in intently. And yes, you're right. You have to put in the, not academic, but let's call it academic sort of foundations to leap off into session 2 and then session 3. So quite understand that. And I hope you guys have enjoyed that. Thanks for joining us, everyone, this morning. If you think of any questions that you wanted to ask Simon and Jason, but didn't think of them at the time, you can contact them directly or come via me. I've put my email address in the chat room there, just at the top. So please feel free to get in touch. Simon and Jason, do you have a slide with your contact details on? I'm not sure.
I think it's the slide after this.
Okay.
Let's see if I can.
I'm jumping the gun.
It's not, but mine is, so I'm Simon at simonhaigh, HAIGH.com. Simon at simonhaigh.com. And then Jason?
jcooper at jasonacooper.ie. I'm just putting it into the chat.
Yep.
And Simon, if you want to do the same, so people have it. I think we probably got it on the final slide, but of the end of the week. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Or if you want to, you can give us a call as well. And I put my number. I'm more than happy to help anyone that needs help.
Yeah.
Yeah, super, good. Okay, yeah, thanks for that. Some feedback coming in here. James, thank you guys. Sinead, many thanks. Really excellent presentation, very comprehensive, lots of stuff to review before next session. Yeah. So glad you enjoyed it, guys. Thanks very much indeed. Do join us again on the 29th, I think it is. So day Friday, after tomorrow, Friday.
Yep.
Yeah. We'll look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you to Simon and Jason, as always. And we'll see you on Friday, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Cheers, guys. Take care.